Hey guys, today we're in the book of 1 Kings chapter 16. So the saga continues of all of the kings. And as I said yesterday, I went on and I found a chart of all the kings. I have this chart. If you text me, email me, I'm going to try to put it on Facebook that you can grab it. It's just a PDF, but it will have color-coded good kings, bad kings, Judah on the right, Judah on the left, Israel on the right. And then I'm going in and adding the Bible verses that talks about them as well as the length of their reign. So I'm just pinning in. And so this is not a chart I made. I just found one. So I'm kind of making it along with you guys so we have something to always talk about. But this will greatly help in the reading of Kings and Chronicles. Okay, just to keep all the names straight. Good, bad, where they were at. So if you need this, let me know. I can easily email it, Facebook it. I can do anything. Just let me know. Okay, chapter 16, and it says that the word of the Lord came to Jehu, the son of Hanani. Jehu, we're going to see him quite often. He's actually a prophet of the Lord, and he is a prophet for many years, 50 plus years, and he's going to speak to several kings, and he's going to kind of pop in and out of Kings and Chronicles quite often. And so though he's important, he doesn't have his own book, but he is apparently a great man of the Lord. And so Jehu, the word of the Lord came to him and basically told the king Baasha, he's a terrible king, and he says, the Lord says, I will utterly sweep away Baasha and his house. And so though he reigned for 24 years, it was not a good reign. And it says that he's going to wipe him away because of all of the evil that he has done. And that's exactly what God does. And so in verse 8, in the 26th year of Asa, which is the king of Judah, the king Elah, the son of Baasha, began to reign over Israel in Tezrah, and he reigned for 2 years. So Baasha, who was the king, God eliminates, and now we have this new king named Elah. He's the king of the north, and he reigns for about 2 years, and during those 2 years he was assassinated. Verse 11, he struck down all, he seated himself, and he destroyed all of, struck down the whole house of Baasha. And here, he was assassinated by a guy named Zimri. Okay, or Zimri. Zimri is there. He comes in and he assassinates Baasha and wipes out his whole family and takes over. And you can tell how bad this was because in verse 15 we say Zimri became king of the north because he assassinated the king, but he was only king for 7 days. Okay, so Zimri was king only for 7 days, and then Omri takes over, and that's because the Lord does not bless him because he came by assassination, and basically the commander of the army, Omri, okay, the commander of the army, whose name is Omri, goes and he kills him because he just killed the king, right? I mean, there hasn't even been, the body's barely cold yet, right? And so Omri goes in and kills him. And what happens is during this kind of contention of who's king, half of Israel wants Omri, the commander of the army, to be the king of Israel, but another half of them wants a guy named Tibnah to be king. And so Israel's kind of fighting who's going to be king, but the people who want Omri to be king kind of win over the people who want Tibnah to be king. And so Omri becomes the next king. And so he's king for 12 years, okay? So Omri, who was the commander of the army, he was the general, he becomes king for 12 years. And he is important because he bought a hill and he named this hill Samaria. Okay, this will become the capital of Israel, of the northern 10 tribes. Okay, so Omri, okay, just put that in your memory bank, bought this hill named Samaria. He's going to build a city there, and this city will become the capital of Israel. It will become basically the context of when we get to the New Testament of why everybody hates Samaria. Okay, this is the story connecting the Old Testament to the New Testament, right? And so he buys this place, and he doesn't know he's going to build the capital yet. That's to come, but it will become the capital of the northern tribes, where Jerusalem is the capital of the 2 southern tribes of Judah, right? Judah and Benjamin. So you have Jerusalem, and you will have Samaria, and Omri is the guy who does this. He is an important guy in Israel's history. But notice verse 25. It says that Omri did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He did more than all who were before him, and he walked in the ways of Jeroboam. So he was a terrible king. He was a wicked king, and he was more wicked than any guy before him. And that's saying something. But Omri eventually dies after his 12 years of reign, and his son will become king, and his son is named Ahab. Ahab. So Ahab will be the next king of the northern kingdom, and he will reign for 22 years. And we will talk about Ahab in a lot of places, in a lot of many days. The next several chapters are all about King Ahab. But King Ahab, he reigns for 22 years. It says that he did evil in the sight of the Lord more than there was all before him. So once again, we just keep getting worse and worse and worse for the northern kingdom. He takes a wife named Jezebel, who was the daughter of Ethbah, the king of Sidonia. All right. So Ethbah, it literally has the name Baal or Bel in it. Ethbah, which means where is Baal, right? It's a cry of worship. Where is Baal? Jezebel is just, from the very beginning of reading, you know these are not good people. Their names literally contain the false god Baal in them, right? And so just as Solomon married foreign wives and was his detriment, Ahab marries a foreign wife, the princess of Sidonia, Jezebel, and this will be his demise as well. But he marries this woman named Jezebel, and they went and served Baal and worshiped him. He erected altars for Baal. He built Asherahs, which are big totem poles that were for another god, Asherah. And notice what it says. Ahab did more to provoke the Lord than all the kings of Israel who were before him. Wow, right? I mean, they just keep getting worse and worse and worse. But notice this in verse 34 and 30, in verse 34. In his days, Halil of Bethel, okay, he built Jericho. He laid its foundations at the cost of Abram, his firstborn, set the gates at the cost of his second son, Segub. Now remember Jericho? Jericho, all the way back in the book of Joshua, the first city that they went in and God gave and they devoted to God's destruction, right? They did this, and Joshua said, he cursed the city and said, if anybody builds this, it will be at the detriment of their own children. And that's Joshua chapter 6, verse 26. So here, Ahab, the king of the north of Israel, right? He is worshiping Baal, and he's building all of these false gods and temples and all of these things. Now he goes and he is basically challenging Joshua, who has been dead for many hundreds of years, but he's also challenging God, right? He goes back and builds the city, which God said should not be rebuilt. And they do. He kind of gets the architect and he builds Jericho, just as Joshua 6 says. They built it, but under their sons, right? Their sons died in the building of Jericho because of the curse. So you can see in this setup of Ahab how bad he is. He's the worst that's ever been, but now he's challenging Joshua and God. So it just tells you how bad he is. Now, everything that we've read in this chapter, we have went through. While there's only been one king in the south, Asa, right? There's been one king in the south. During this whole time of the south, we've had Jeroboam has died, Nadab, Baasha, Elah, Zimri, Omri, and now Ahab. So one king in the south while all these kings of the north has happened, right? So just want you to understand. I encourage you to download a chart of some sort and it will help you greatly. If you need this, let me know. Hope that makes a little bit more sense, and we will see you tomorrow in chapter 17. God bless.